Welcome, happy people. Thank you for coming to another amazing year of Best and Worst Manga. So this is our all-star band of comics critics. Let's start on the far end. Please introduce yourselves.
Hi, I am Siddharth Gupta. I go online as Lamramayasha, and I am the managing editor and one of the hosts of the Manga Mavericks podcast. Our podcast dedicated to discussing manga as a medium and as an industry, covering new series, the latest news, doing watch reviews for folks in the industry. And I also host a podcast, Lum Squad, which is dedicated to your theatra, who goes classic sci-fi rom-com manga. And I want to give a shout out to my co-host Colton here, who is here for his first San Diego Comic Con.
Editor-in-Chief, lead translator, pretty much covers all the hats at Weekly Shogakukan Edition, a blog/Twitter account that is dedicated to covering Shogakukan in general, but especially Weekly Shonen Sunday, which most people probably know as the Takahashi magazine or the Conan magazine. There's other stuff in there, and we're trying to show that to other people. But we translate interviews, review manga, and this is my first panel ever, so please be gentle.
Hi there, I'm Varun Gupta. In my day job, I am a BI engineer for Prime Video, where I am involved with worldwide programming. But in my free time, I do a lot with manga. I own Manga Mavericks, the website, and also our massive podcast network, which includes Siddharth and Colton's podcast, Manga Mavericks, but also a lot of other successful podcasts like the Demon Slayer podcast, where we talk about Demon Slayer Kimetsu no Yaiba, and then Saturday Night Shagi, which I came with Mike here, where we talk about Shogakukan. Yeah, very excited to be here.
I'm feeling a little underqualified for this. I'm just a librarian. My name is Leslie Flynn. I'm a librarian at the Austin Public Library in Austin, Texas. I am also the chair of the American Library Association's Best Graphic Novelist for Adults this year, and a member of the Texas Library Association's Best Graphic Novels for Teens list.
I'm Laura Musat. I am a video content creator on TikTok and YouTube, and also run the JoJo's Bizarre Adventure podcast. I mainly the name is really good. I mainly focus on shoujo, josei, and LGBT manga. I also make content about Vocaloid as well as rhythm games as well.
My name is Bridget Alverson. I'm a journalist covering comics. I write for Publishers Weekly, School Library Journal, and ICP2. I am the editor of the Good Comics for Kids blog. I'm part of the editorial team at Smash Pages. Almost 20 years ago, 19 years ago, I started a blog called Manga Blog. It's kind of gone defunct, but it really plunged me into the world of manga. And I started the blog actually because my kids were reading manga and it looked a little sketchy to me. Now my oldest daughter is a librarian, so there you go. And I'm also a grizzled veteran of these panels. You don't have to underestimate. My name is Deb Aoki. I am one quarter of the Manga Splaining podcast, a podcast for people who haven't read much manga before. And I'm also writing for Comic Speed, and as well as our new venture, Kate Comic Speed, which I'll talk about in a little bit. Okay, so this year we're doing something slightly different. Normally I'm on the panel trying to give my picks. This year it's all these guys, and the only time I put a pick in is when they ran out of ideas. And believe me, it wasn't that many this time, so it wasn't much of a break as you would think. All right, yes, Kate Comic Speed. We just announced this yesterday. This is going to be the sister
Comics Beat. We are going to focus on Korean comics, mobile web comics, and much, much more. Please go ahead and sign up for our weekly newsletter. And if you come up to me afterwards, I will give you a postcard and a coupon for 3,000 ink on tapas. So that gives you about 10 chapters or something. Change. So come on by. All right. Also, the other thing I'm up to no good with is the American Manga Awards. If you are a manga publishing professional, librarian, retailer, basically, yeah, if you're involved as a scholar or whatever, you can register to vote in the American Manga Awards. The deadline is Saturday at midnight, so don't snooze. You have to register before you vote. Deadline to vote is August 1st. We will announce the winners at part of Anime New York City on August 22nd and 10th. So please look forward to it. Some of our, Bridget is one of the judges for the manga categories, and she has amazing taste. Also, if you want even more manga recommendations, hang around on Saturday from 11 to 12. Me and my pals from the Mancha are going to give you manga for non-manga readers recommendations. This should be interesting. In any case, all right, if you are new to the Best and Worst Manga panel, here's how this works. Every panelist was asked to pick one favorite manga for each category. For Best New Manga, the first volume needed to be published between July 1st, 2023 and July 1st, 2024 in either print or digital. Same goes for continued series that have at least one new volume published between July 1st, 2023 and July 1st, 2024. Panelists were allowed to abstain from a category and let another panelist get a bonus pick. That's me. And here's the fun part. Panelists will only have 60 seconds to describe the manga and why they picked it. At the end of 60 seconds, the bell will ring, and they gotta wrap it up. I'm the bell master. All right, let's get going. All right, here we go. Best new manga for kids and teens. Varun, start.
So Gacha has been my obsession for most of this year at this point. It's just insanely cool. The creator, Kigurana, used to work with Atsushi Okubo, the creator of Fire Force and Soul Eater. And their artwork and just storytelling is just on par, if not even better than theirs. So the story is like basically like the main character Rudo lives in this kind of like dystopian like city in the sky, and he gets banished to this abyss after being accused of killing his mentor. And in this abyss, it's just a ton of trash and forgotten items. But the trash comes to life, and he has to use these gloves that he has to take other forgotten items and turn them into weapons and fight the trash. So it's literally like trash fighting trash. And it's like the coolest thing ever. It's so cool. The artist also works with a graffiti artist. There's like this cool graffiti look to the manga as well. It's one of those things where you just read it and you just want to like go through every single chapter you can find. It's addicting.
All right, next one. Laura, please go.
So what initially drew me in was the fact that the artwork reminded me so much of like early 2000s shoujo manga. It's very reminiscent of Clamp. But behind that beautiful artwork is a very powerful story that is a lot more politically driven, and especially with what's happening currently worldwide, I think there's a lot of parallels that you can make. So this story depicts a kingdom that discriminates against otherworldly creatures. These can be mermaids, angels, anything that's not human, they discriminate against. And that includes the princess of the kingdom as well, which her family basically forces her to take medicine and do anything possible to repress the fact that she is a mermaid, so she can appear as a normal human being and not get discriminated against by like that same kingdom. So the fact that there are a lot of parallels with what is currently happening worldwide, I think it's a good lesson of empathy, especially for younger people.
Leslie.
Alright, Windbreaker. So our main character is Haruka Sakura. He thinks he's the toughest juvenile delinquent that's ever existed, and he is going to go to the school where all the juvenile delinquents go, and he's going to beat them all up and prove that he's the toughest guy that's ever existed ever. He shows up at this school only to find out that, yes, they're tough, they fight each other, but they're also the protectors of their neighborhood, and everybody in the neighborhood loves all of them. And he's not used to people I picked this because the illustrations are fantastic. There's so much action, so much fighting, and it's all very clear. You can see what everybody's doing. It's very kinetic. It's very smooth and fluid, and I think it's just really fun. I give this to my boys who don't want to read. It's like, boys fighting. Read this. There's I think the fourth volume is about to come out. It's one.
Right, this is Mike's pick.
Yes, this is Spawn, the House of Monsters. So I've been a big Hinori Yamachi fan since his original series was shown on Sunday called Mary Grave. Not available officially, but this is, so please support it. This is about a soldier who, it's kind of a isekai or not, but it's about a soldier who used to fight monsters in this big war, and the monsters are all defeated, and she's like, okay, what do I do now? And she ends up with these like little gnome people that build houses for monsters specifically based on what they need. Like you have one where it's like a mermaid and a werewolf living together, and they need obviously a pool for the mermaid, stuff for the wolf. And so she starts building houses for the monsters that she used to, well, kill. And it's really a compelling story about just acceptance. And Yamachi's really good at detailing the houses to the point that they have before and after and everything. And his artwork's incredible.
Bridget, who goes?
Medalist. This is an ice skating manga that really kind of challenges some of the narrative around ice skating. In Japan, apparently, if you're not on the ice by the time you're 5, just forget about it. You're too old to start skating. So our two lead characters are Tsukasa, who is a former ice dancer who kind of never really made it to the pros because he started too late. So he's unemployed and he goes back to his hometown, and there he meets Inori, who is a waif-like little girl. She's 11 years old and she desperately wants to skate. She's been bribing the gatekeeper with worms to get into the skating rink, and she's very talented. But her mother doesn't want her to skate because her older sister was a skater and sacrificed much of her childhood to skating. Her mother doesn't want her to make the same mistake. Inori, on the other hand, desperately wants to skate. And of course, she's 11, a little old for this. There's a really nice relationship between the two of them. It has, and also a lot of technical stuff about skating, which is pretty cool.
Let's start.
Tales of the Tendo family is about an orphan girl whose beloved grandfather recently passed away, and he was the only person who really showed her a lot of kindness and instilled a lot of values of being very self-sacrificing and kind to people. And she desperately wants to die while saving someone else's life and reunite her grandfather in the afterlife. One day she encounters a runaway Baroness's daughter named Hojo Ran, who is running away from being married off to the cruel young master of the Tendo family, who are a notorious local rich family who have a lot of interfamily conflict, and there are a lot of debts in the family, particularly those who marry into it. And she agrees to impersonate Ran and take her place. But when her would-be betrothed, Masato Tendo, finds out, instead of exposing her, he is both intrigued and perturbed by her self-sacrificial nature and forces her, blackmails her basically to keep up the charade. And I am really drawn to Ron as a protagonist because of her self-sacrificing nature. I think this manga would be really appealing to fans of Fruits Basket. There are a lot of similar vibes.
We are now moving on to the best new manga for grown-ups. Rune, please start.
Yeah, so Full Night. This one's kind of interesting, you know. So it takes place in this world that there's not enough sunlight and plants to like sustain human life. So people, like when they're on the verge of death, now have this deal where they can get this like surgery that's called transfloration, where they implant these seeds into you, and essentially the seeds will grow and you'll become a living plant. So the main character, Kamiya, he finds a way to get this surgery because he has a lot of money issues and he's in a very like tricky family situation. But when he gets the surgery, he immediately loses all the money that he gets because he gets mugged. But then he learns that he's able to communicate with the transformed people, the spirit flora. So he gets hired to basically investigate all these situations with the spirit flora. It's an interesting series in that like it has this very weird horror aesthetic to it, but it's not really a horror series, but it's just really fun.
Next one, Mike.
Yes, Darwin Incident. I read the first volume and could not put it down. I mean, look at this, a human Z. And it's like there's so many different factions. So basically, he's a cross between an actual monkey who was able to give birth of a cross between a human and a monkey, and he's trying to live like a normal life among humans. But of course, there are people that discriminate against him. There are terrorist groups that want to use him as an example of why, and it's just several different factions. He makes friends with a human girl, and it's an interesting thing because it's like it doesn't take place in Japan, as you can see there. It takes place in the U.S. I don't remember exactly when, but I don't think it's like current. It might be. But just what's interesting about it is like there are just so many different ways that they kind of show that humans can be just as monstrous as animals, and Charlie himself, the main character, is kind of very insane, but he still asks these questions about humans that we never really think about, and I just like that kind of. It's a good series for like adults that are just into that kind of thing.
Onward to Leslie's pick.
I love this series so much. This is about a guy who lives in a family of assassins that can only assassinate people with poison, and his grandmother's forcing him to get married. And so Hiro, who has never really talked to a normal human being at all, is supposed to kill a marriage swindler, but instead they make a deal. So the marriage swindler is going to help him find a wife in exchange for Jiro not killing them. So what follows is a series of hijinks as Jiro tries to find a wife, and each one of them has him facing a different assassin. So there's one that's like manipulates sound and kills people with sound waves, and it's really fascinating because the first one is like this art heist adventure, and the second one starts being like a haunted murder in the forest situation, and it just sort of jumps from genre to genre, and I love it so much.
Bridget.
Mr. Villain's Day Off. You do not get to be the general of a shadowy organization plotting world domination if you don't pay attention to self-care. Am I right? So, our enigmatic hero, who is actually a villain, takes his days off seriously. He likes to go to the zoo and get all melting over the pandas because he loves pandas. Maybe have some ice cream. And if one of the rangers, who are his mortal enemies, shows up, and he's not going to do anything about that because it's his day off. This is a comedy. It has short chapters. Sometimes that kind of thing doesn't work really well in English, but this one does. It's really funny and it's cute. I thought I would nominate Innocent or maybe Ganabelle. There's a lot of really great adult dark manga out there right now, but we live in trying times, and sometimes I need to relax a little, and Mr. Villain gives me a good laugh every time.
Next, Laura.
Kind of going along with Bridget's pick, this is another one that's very lighthearted. So this is a nostalgic but very bumpy trip down memory lane. So you follow a protagonist, Meg. You get introduced to her when she's in her 40s. She's now a daughter to an otaku herself, and she's just kind of thinking like, oh man, these kids have it so good these days. Like, liking anime and manga is now mainstream. You don't get bullied. Like, wow, like how different is time like for an otaku like today in modern times compared to the 90s, where she was just a teenager, where she's so over the top with her love for anime and manga, but at the same time wants to fit in with her classmates, wants to gain the attention of her crush, who reminds her of the male lead in Slam Dunk, Gala. So she was of course like, oh my god, that's him in the flesh. So it is a very funny read, definitely for 90s otakus.
Start.
Yes. Mothers is a collection of about a dozen short stories. And despite the title, it is not just about relationships with mothers, but relationships of kindness or regrets about wanting to be kinder between many different relationships, whether it be mother-child, between siblings, between classmates who really never interacted again. And what really struck me about this collection of short stories is just like how it is just so focused on thinking about how we treat other people and kind of the gestures of kindness really emotional, and it is the opposite of like fun times. I think it's the tearjerker one. Prepare to cry after every chapter.
This is another, it's also, if you notice a little logo there, it's American Manga Awards nominee, so.
Yes.
Right. Best continuing manga series for kids and teens. Let's start with Leslie.
Alright, My Happy Marriage. Some of y'all probably watched the anime of this one. It's loosely based on Cinderella. We have Mio, who is kind of the abandoned daughter of a rich family. She's being pushed off to marry this guy who's supposed to be awful. All his previous potential lives have left him, and it turns out that he just doesn't want someone who's after him for his money. So it's a very slow burn romance. It has the most beautiful illustrations. It reminds me a lot of like older classic shoujo romance mangas. And by the end of the first volume, you learn that, oh yes, they also have magic powers, there's monsters, and it's not just romance, there's gonna be fantasy elements on top of it. It's really beautiful.
Great, Mike.
Call of the Night, one of my favorite things to show on Sunday, recently ended. It's about a young boy who's kind of just bored with life. He goes to school, he does the thing, but it's all for appearances. He really has fun at night, and where he meets a vampire lady. And the first thing he wants to do is, normally he'd run the other direction, but no, he's like, can you turn me into a vampire? But the way that it works in this world is, the vampire has to fall in love with you before that happens. And this vampire girl like has no idea what love is. She's not interested in that. So like makes it his mission to make her fall in love with him. So and it's very stylish. It's by the author of Dagashi Gashi, which had an anime which was awesome. And like I said, recently ended, so it's not too much of investment. But what I just love is like Kotoyama has some very interesting things to say about relationships throughout this series as he meets more vampire girls. They also have relationships that they have to deal with, and falling in love with human has a whole bunch of other issues too. Because if a vampire falls, I don't want to say too much, but it's really good.
It's Bridget.
Oh, Akane Banashi. Okay, how many manga have we read where the hero decides that they're going to succeed and then they work incredibly hard to ridiculous extents, right? This manga is kind of debunks that, and I love it. First of all, it's about rakugo, the ancient Japanese art of storytelling, and that in itself, like descending stories, is great because it includes some traditional stuff plus great backstage soap opera. Akane is a 16-year-old girl. She's just started training to become a rakugoka, and one of the first things her mentor tells her is, stop trying so hard. You need to learn to read the room. You need to learn to please an audience. It's a really thoughtful, funny manga. I love the way that when she's telling a story, the characters appear behind her in like a brushy, kind of traditional ink drawing style. And it's full of really intriguing characters who show all the different styles of rakugo. So even if you know nothing about rakugo, they're going to break you in gently and like they show you a little bit of this world at a time. 2 thumbs up for Akane Banashi.
Another American Manga Awards nominee.
Yes, it is.
Laura, please go.
So this story is basically, it's going to appeal to anyone who's a K-pop stan, a J-pop stan. You follow a young high school girl who is in love with her favorite idol. And one day, you guys know how, if you're a fan girl, it gets very expensive to support your idols. So she has to work part-time as a housekeeper. And one day she gets assigned the house of none other but her favorite idol. But when she opens the door, he is nothing like the guy on stage. So that is what she sees. A very gloomy idol who doesn't feel like he deserves the love that he gets from his fans. So he goes from being taught choreography to basically being coached by one of his fans that he is worthy enough to be on stage. It's a very funny series with a lot of like very touching moments as well, but also for fangirls, like you've been to the concerts when your favorite idol makes eye contact with you and you just see every exaggeration drawn, like heads exploding, everything. It's really funny.
what I find so interesting about it is that there is a conflict between these kind of two factions, the Higashimura family and the Kagemura family, but it's not really very clear or like transparent in that there is one just bad faction. So it kind of just kind of creates this very multifaceted story where you have these two siblings on each sides of this conflict, and they both have their own reasons for fighting each other. And there's kind of this, not really a building tension, but kind of an intrigue about why this conflict exists and like where the story's going. So I'm just like constantly invested in it. It helps that like Arakawa's artwork's beautiful. She's a very masterful storyteller that really knows how to create satisfying like relationships and stories. So yeah, read those.
Scott.
Yes, Yuri is my job is about a group of girls who work out their feelings while in character at a German women's boarding school themed cafe inspired by classic process stories, which was the literary progenitor of modern Yuri. And what I really find awesome about Yuri is my job is just how it explores like very fraught feelings and tensions between the characters, like through the setting of them like having to act in character with each other in like these like functional loving relationships while behind the scenes they have like conflicts with each other. And so they have to work out their feelings while in character while also resolving them behind the scenes. And the most recent volumes have explored a really interesting relationship between a character who is deeply in love with like her kind of younger sister type character in their relationship. It's basically, so the couples in series are like questions of a sister relationship, and I just find the exploration of relationships in the series really, really compelling.
All right, we're moving on to the best continuing series, manga series for grown-ups. Let's go. Start with Leslie.
Alright, if you are looking for a pure sunbeam of a book boyfriend, this series is for you. This is very much a teen adult title. We just have it in my adult section, so that's why I chose it. Yuki is a deaf college student, and she has a meet cute on a train with Tsuomi, who is the most popular guy at school. He is a world-traveling, generous, kind, very standoffish guy who decides he must learn sign language and she must teach him. And she immediately falls in love with him, and he is okay with that. It is super slow burn, so if you're like, just start kissing already. It's just very generous. There's a lot of sign language that's drawn out, and they use a sign language coordinator, like they get someone to read to make sure it makes sense, and it's just, I think, a very compelling and lovely example of showing somebody with a disability in manga.
Marla, go ahead.
So She Loves to Cook, She Loves to Eat is a girls' love series cooked with a lot of love and care. So as the title might suggest, one of them likes to cook. She is a single woman who has her own Instagram page showcasing recipes, but the problem is she wants to do these elaborate like tables where she has her main course and appetizers and all these things, but she lives by herself. So she can't really cook all these things. And a woman who lives in her apartment building, she is someone who, will just eat whatever. Like, she leaves work tired, will go to the convenience store. She doesn't have the best balanced diet, and she notices that. So she's like, oh, why don't you come over? I'll cook for you. I'll get to snap my pictures, and you get to eat something that's a lot better than pizza or fried chicken or anything like that. It's a very touching story about two women that learn to be vulnerable and trust one another.
Mike.
Alice in Borderland. So if you're a big fan of Squid Game, or you've seen it, because this is right up your alley. So it's about Alice, who's a pretty shiftless kind of character, and his friend is kind of chilling. And one day they're transferred to this world where, in order to get anywhere, you have to play games. And a lot of the times, the games can go from being pretty simple, then they get kind of ratchet up, where it's like a lot of treachery, backstabbing, and it's just, and of course, horror also
read this series, I showed pictures of it to Mike, and I think it traumatized him. So welcome back, Alice. This is my Shizuo Shimi, who's on my Fires of Evil, Blood on the Tracks. A lot of very dark and emotional stories, and this is no exception. And it's one of those series where like it's very uncomfortable to read at times, and it goes into these very unabashed like explorations of like identity and sexuality, but it does it in a way that still feels very genuine. And even in its toughest moments when you're reading it, which it gets very tough and almost like unreadable at times, it's so powerful. So if you're into those like heavy emotional stories, I say read this. This might be one of the best things you'll read.
Excellent. Siddharth.
I think Her Son is Gay is about a mother who very deeply suspects her son might be gay. He drops a lot of obvious hints about the kind of men he likes. He likes a lot of manly men. He really gushes over his best friend Daigo. He really wears his emotions on his sleeves. But Tomoko, the mother, doesn't press him on it. She is just quietly supportive of him and encouraging of him whenever he shows any doubts or insecurities. And this manga, like, it wrapped up with its most recent manga, the 5th volume, and a lot of really just sweet things came out of it. Like, there was a long-running conflict about the father being kind of very openly saying homophobic things, being so oblivious to like how his son feels, and in this way the mother confronts him on it, and it has a really good resolution about how to be a supportive parent to a queer child, and just a lot of great exploration of young characters exploring their sexualities as well.
Right, Bridget, let's go.
All right, buckle up, kids. We're taking a trip to the Uncanny Valley. So, Yoshiki, make sure I get this right. Yoshiki, and because you know when you read it, you don't hear it really. Yoshiki and Hikaru are teenagers. They're friends, and Hikaru goes up to the mountains and comes back. And, only Yoshiki notices that something is different about him. And what's different about him is that Hikaru actually died, and his body has been taken over by some kind of a shadowy being that has Hikaru's memories but not his experiences. So like he knows what ice cream is, but the first time he tastes it, it's really something special. Now, they're teenagers. Hikaru and Yoshiki are attracted to one another, and they're sort of awkward about that. And now this whole, oh darn, he's dead thing really complicates things, but Yoshiki decides he'd rather have a world with a fake Hikaru in it than no Hikaru at all. But it's, of course, it's not that simple because this is a horror manga. It's not the kind of manga that hits you with big handfuls of guts, though. It's the kind of manga where like everything is a little off. If you like summertime rendering, you're gonna love Hikaru.
It's another American manga awards nominee. All right, and now we're best part of this panel. Time for the worst manga for anybody at any age. And you are not ready for this.
You are not.
All right. First up, Leslie, defend yourself.
The concept is great. A boy who believes in aliens meets a girl who believes in spirits. They're going to prove to each other that the other one exists, and whoever proves it first is going to be the servant of the other. The problem is when the boy goes to find the spirits and finds an elderly ghost that immediately suggests that she give him a blowjob, and then the girl meets these cloned aliens who immediately rip off her clothes and pull out a penis that's shaped like a rocket ship and implies that they're going to rape her. And that's when I said no, and I turned it off and I returned it back to the library. I know, like, I listened to the manga explaining episode after I tried to read this book, and I know that it gets more fascinating and it's a bit of a sex comedy and all that, but I work with teenagers and I can't.
I respect them. All right, onward to Siddharth's pick.
So if you remember last year, Varun picked this as his best moment for adults, and I had to throw him under the bus, but to be fair, he didn't read volume 2. So this year is basically about like a homeless guy who takes up an offer for like 700,000 yen to undergo trepanation, but he's getting
that allows him to see like homunculi, which are basically kind of the hidden like personas of people. And there's a lot of fascinating concepts, but unfortunately, in the second volume, it's dedicated pretty much to the two lead characters, like stalking and trying to sexually accost like a teenage girl, and it goes pretty far. Unfortunately, it goes into like the protagonist raping this teenage girl. And there's a general amount of misogyny in the series that's very unpleasant. So, yeah, it's made some pretty reprehensible story choices, I think.
He gave me four screenshots for your 4-page list to choose from. This was the wild one. All right, Laura, go for it.
I love my shoujo manga, but there are things that I don't like. And when I first saw this series, I thought it was just going to be about a rock band, but I thought both the girl and the guy would be in high school. Turns out the guy is in his 20s and the girl is in high school. And she's a girl who leaves the countryside and basically finds refuge in his house. He's a 20-year-old guitarist who drinks, smokes, hooks up with other girls, but at first is very annoyed by her and will remind her that she is a minor. A few pages in, he's into her and they're kissing. So it gave me the ick, and I could barely get through volume 1. Volume 2 is not gonna happen. No. There's much better shoujo than this. You can just look at the panels.
Did you bring it with you to get rid of today?
No, I've been absolutely
Oh well. That's a tradition with the best and worst manga. We bring our worst manga and we give it.
I don't want anybody to read that. Much better shoujo.
Alright, next up, Rune.
Yeah, I feel like I picked a pretty low ball this time. This is my Raging Muse the author of Friend to Girlfriend. So I feel like
What did we expect?
if you've read that, you know what to expect. You know you're going in for trash. And the thing is that this is very unoriginal and boring to me. Like, essentially, like, you have this main character, you have 5 sisters and 1 brother, and when the young sibling turns 15, they find out, oh hey, all of us are adopted. And then some of the sisters fall in love with him, and it's all the usual harem stuff, you know. At that point, it's just done. It's boring, I don't care. Yeah. If you're reading this, maybe read it, but otherwise, stay away.
Next up is my pick. Now, let's pour out a 40 for that poor typesetter who had to Put it that way. I was reincarnated as a 7th prince so I could take my time perfecting my magical ability. Alright, so what makes this different than all the other kind of, manga that has like, 15, 20 words as a title? Basically gives away the entire plot. Well, for one thing, this guy just he's surrounded by these girls, and then he's like, oh my god, how am I gonna do this spell? Like, he's so obsessed with learning how to be a magic wizard. Like, and then of course, there's boobies all over. And then he wears like little short pants that are like kind of tidy whities, and then he's kind of like showing off like, I don't know, 10-year-old sexy bod. It's just kind of creepy.
So we go from old guy with young girl now to older girls with younger guys.
Exactly, manga has everything.
It can offend you in so many different ways.
And maybe you love this, and I won't judge you. But anyway,
I know.
Anyway, I'm ready to go. Here's the kicker.
Yeah. I was hoping I'd go before. Okay, so I did try to read this 3 times. Could not get past chapter 17. Doesn't help that everywhere everybody on Twitter talks about it. So I know everything about Chainsaw Man despite not reading it. And it's just, the panel I chose is one of the reasons why I don't like it. Because it's like every time it's like trying to say something like poignant, then it does something like this. And it's like, characters and all that stuff, then it'll do a pull my finger joke. And I just, when you take away just all of this crap, you just have that run-of-the-mill exorcist manga that many other manga have done much, much better. Like, there's just nothing about the characters or the scenarios or this that I can really say that I like. Like, I don't get it. But if you're into it, cool. I get why people like it, but it's just, I don't know. If you want good Fujimoto, look back, Goodbye Area. That's what you should do. Not this.
I have good news for you though. There are several volumes of Chainsaw Down on
Apology, folks.
Make sure you
Yeah,
Run back out of town.
Varun made us buy the box set to apologize to all the Chainsaw Man fans. So if you're angry, just let me get a head start.
Alright. And now we are on to happier things. The most anticipated new manga that are coming in fall or winter is coming soon. Alright, Varun.
Ashino Joe is like my favorite manga of all time. It is honestly one of the best mangas ever made and the best sports manga ever made. For people that don't really know it, basically have this orphan. He starts learning about boxing, he goes to prison, finds inspiration to become a boxer. Then he starts from like nothing and then goes through the ranks in like a boxing league in Japan. And it's really just the quintessential shonen manga. You'll see so many references in anime manga today that come from Ashita no Joe. And it's, I think, essential reading for any manga fan. So I'm so happy with that just finally releasing it in English this year. I'm gonna buy every volume.
Next up, Leslie.
Okay, so this was originally published as a webcomic on Manta, and there is actually already a live action adaptation, but Hannah is finally releasing it in print. It is about a college guy who is very, but in a very role following, and he had to do a group project with a bunch of people who never showed up, so he took their name off the project, and that ruined the plans of like the super popular college guy. And now that guy is decided that the only thing he wants in life is to ruin buttoned up perfect Sanjiwoo's life. And so it's just him destroying every moment of peace that Sanjiwoo has ever been able to find. His favorite drink is never there. Somehow he missed his bus. How did the bus show up early? It's ridiculous and it's funny, and I didn't finish the online version, but I'm pretty sure they're gonna fall in love, and
That's fair to say. Alright, Mike, go for it.
Dragon Chameleon. So imagine you're a manga artist and you make it all the way to the top and you're like the big guy on campus. You have one of your assistants who's like kind of lazy, kind of shiftless, and one day you switch bodies. And it's like, okay, the new guy, and you're like, you meet the new guy, you're like, okay, let's figure out a way to get change back. It's like, actually, no, I like this. I don't have to work now. And so, like, and what were you gonna do? Tell people that that's not me? So now it becomes a battle where he starts all over from the beginning as a rookie manga and works his way back at the top. And they frame the art like battle manga. Like, the My Hero Academia artist recommended this, saying that this guy draws manga like with his blood, sweat, and tears. Like, the artwork is amazing. And plus, it's just, like, even though it's a manga about making manga, it's not boring at all. It's like, it's treated like you would, like, two guys having a fist fight. Like, and I just loved it. And the fact that they treat, like, his rise to the top again, as this, like, he just kind of gets into it. And it's really good.
Alright, Bridget, next.
Wash it all away, people. This is a slice of life manga about a young woman who takes in washing in a seaside town, and that's literally all I know about it. But it's such an attractive. It kind of reminds me of Soramachi, but without all the main cafe stuff. You know, like Mr. Villain, I like to take a day off once in a while and relax after a tough day with some slice of life manga. And this looks like a very pretty manga that I'm really going to enjoy.
Alright.
Last Quarter is by the creator of Nana in Paradise Kiss. This is not a new story because when this was first announced by Viz, a lot of people were like, why is Nana on hiatus and she's coming out with this? This is a story that came out in the 90s, and it gives, it provides more diversity in shoujo manga. I feel like a lot of people are still under the assumption that shoujo manga is just nothing but fluffy romances. a supernatural mystery series that is completed with 3 volumes, so we should be getting the full series pretty quickly from this. But you basically don't know what's real and what's a dream. People that you meet, the interactions that you see in this story. I have not read it because this will be the first time it actually gets translated in English, but I'm definitely very much looking forward to it. I think her other works, Paradise Kiss and Nana, are classic shoujo series, so this is something that a lot of people across the board will enjoy.
Right, next one.
Now, No One Lurks Beneath the Snow is a Cinderella-like, fairy tale inspired, queer romance between a demisexual 33-year-old who horribly treated by her family in this rural, snowy farming village. And one day while delivering carrots to a resident Steve in the mountains, she meets a beautiful, wise beyond their years, 24-year-old non-binary lesbian. And she's they are the first person who tells her that they like her and treats her with kindness, and they form a close friendship with them. But one day is told to not visit them again because they've been forced into arranged marriage, and that inspires her to work up the courage to visit them again and confess their feelings. And I really loved Anito's previous work, Murderer and a Runaway Desire, which was very different in tone to this series. It was basically like Inside Out if it was a Yuri school murder drama with lots of dom sub sex scenes. This is a much more quaint manga, and I think I really appreciate that it features a non-binary protagonist, and Anito themselves is non-binary, so I really appreciate this comes from the desire to see a queer fairy tale.
Okay, we're gonna pay for the fact that you guys went over sometimes. We're gonna win speed round. It's 30 seconds each. Okay? Get ready. This is the most wanted, but not yet licensed manga. Leslie, start.
I was upset that I saw Mike took Alice in Borderland, so I decided to put all the spin-off and sequels. I have no idea what they're about. I don't want to know what they're about. Please put them out in English so I can find out what they're about.
Brilliant. Okay, Mike, start.
Yokai Mafia Revenge Plot. Nekomata gets his owner is killed, and he takes his place to kill the people who killed his owner and protect his little sister. Really good.
All right. My pick is Girl Crush. This one is on, it's on Comic Key, but they stopped serializing it because I think someone's gonna publish it. I don't know who, but it's awesome. It's about a Japanese girl who goes to Korea to become a Korean pop star. It is really, really good. It's really well drawn, and the drama is just super addictive. Please look forward to it. Go read it on Comic Key, and we'll find out what person licensed this book someday. Great. Next one, Laura.
I want a full clan resurgence. I need the battle to come back from out of print jail. Especially since it's such a hard series to find if you want to find the original Yen Press printed series. And in fact, when this got announced as part of the English print, it actually was at San Diego Comic Con back in 2009. But yeah, it's a very fun comedy with those supernatural elements that Clam is known for and the beautiful artwork. Fans just need to discover this once it gets reprinted.
All right, Kaboom.
Okay, so this series is never going to get licensed, but I'm putting it on here anyways. It's about the queer Lucian Tora. It's honestly probably his best series ever made. It's about this haunted house that basically people go into it and never come back. Then these guys from the military decide to recruit people to go into the mansion and finally destroy it. Your main character is a mangaka that just happens to live next to the mansion and is drawing pictures of the mansion. And they can't photograph things in the mansion, so they want him to go in to guide people through the mansion with his drawings. And it's just wild. There's aliens, there's a bunch of cool horror action elements. It's fun.
So I visited Japan for the first time last year and visited the Sky Tree and found this song in the bookstore in the Sky Tree, and it caught my eye because the first chapter, the trio main characters were all local residents of the Gashi ward of Tokyo. Visit the Sky Tree and learn more about it, and that's the purpose of the series. These are local residents who are learning more about their community, and I really appreciated that it explores a lot of different ethnic communities who live in Tokyo and Japan, particularly the Ethiopian immigrant community. And there's no English translation of this of any kind, so I want it badly.
All right, we are out of time and we didn't get into the underrated but awesome, but here's a quick finish it up. Woo! They're amazing. Wow. Yeah, so cool.